emails. What do we got today?
Hey Matt, hope you're doing well.
Oh, Austin.
I'm one of the very few people that kind of enjoyed your Why I Like the Thing video about Bloodborne.
Yeah, how sweet of you to say that.
And I was wondering if you planned to do another video like that? Maybe one about Final Fight, since you never fucking shut up about that game.
Okay.
My love of Final Fight goes back a long way. In fact, two of my earliest video game memories center around Capcom's seminal beat-em-up. I first laid eyes on it in an arcade when I was but a mere pup. I think at the time all I had was an Atari 2600 and an NES to keep me company. So you can imagine the impact that this beast of a machine, this Skynet of arcade cabinets, made on me at the time. At home, I was used to this. But with Final Fight, I got this. Only a year or two later after that first encounter, I was at a birthday party at some kid's house. His name was Jimmy or Josh or whatever the fuck. Anyway, he had a Super NES, which was really new at the time, and a copy of Final Fight. Someone put that bad boy in, and holy fucking dicks. I couldn't believe it. Somehow that awesome arcade game I had seen a year earlier can now be played at home, and it was arcade perfect. Except that it wasn't. Not even close.
Oh my god.
It only had 2 characters, lacked co-op, and was missing enemies and levels, but I was stupid, and I didn't know the difference. Hell, I probably wouldn't have even cared that much if I had known. Regardless, Final Fight made such a massive impression on me during this time period that I was able to easily dust off these recollections right now from within the confines of my memory palace and to just give them to you guys today. Fast forward slightly to when I got my own Super Nintendo and, moseyed down to the rental store. The awesome US box art for Final Fight always caught my eye. Oh man, look at that guy, he looks so cool. Big porn mustache, he's probably gonna fucking punch the other guy like, really hard. Man, this game's so fucking cool. Then, after that, Final Fight 2 came out, and I loved it just as much as the first. Then towards the end of the Super Nintendo's lifespan, I couldn't believe it. Capcom released one more great entry with Final Fight 3. Well, there are lots of other beat-em-ups I liked playing at the time. Those early experiences with Final Fight really stuck with me. So, and to sound overly dramatic, entwine those games into my very DNA. Every single entry that carries the Final Fight name, I love some aspect about it. Yes, every single one.
I postulate that one of the main reasons as to why I enjoy Final Fight so much is the rich cast of heroes and villains that populate the city of Metro City. If you look at them nowadays, however, Guy, Hagar, and Cody look like pretty standard beat-em-up archetypes. But remember, this came out way back in 1989, so many games copied this same trio template from there on out. The fast and nimble martial artist, the heavy-hitting bruiser, and the well-rounded shonen hero. All three are united by a common goal: to rescue Mike Hagar's daughter Jessica from the greasy clutches of the Mad Gear Gang.
Guy, Jessica was kidnapped.
Jessica?
My sweetheart since childhood.
The Mad Gear must pay. She's my friend too. Count me in.
Even though narrative in arcade games was almost unheard of at the time, Final Fight had a surprising amount of backstory, with the bulk of it focusing on fleshing out Cody. A pretty standard expectation to have in video games in the late 80s is that when you beat the bad guy, you get the girl, and that's it. However, once the credits have rolled in Final Fight, even at this early stage, it's implied Cody basically uses Jessica's kidnapping as an excuse to crack heads. He loves to fight, and that's what gets his blood pumping. That's what gives him his purpose. None of this girl stuff. No, you. This was of course later expanded upon in later Street Fighter titles, but even in the original Final Fight, it's amazing to me that they were hinting that Cody's goal was not necessarily Jessica's safety alone. Hagar's motivations, as well as Guy's, are much more noble, as they just want to protect their loved ones and or help out their friends. It's these motivations of Cody that make him a far more interesting character than one would initially think. Certainly more than, say, this guy, or like that guy. Damn. He's not a flawless shining hero, but actually kind of troubled and nuanced. I mean, well, as nuanced as a protagonist from a beat-em-up franchise can hope to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, look, I'm not saying Cody is Macbeth or anything, but I really am though. Hagar, of course, is the ass-kicking former wrestler turned mayor, which is so deliciously cheesy and 80s-like, it's easy to forgive a lack of anything else about him. He's just pure awesomeness, and that's all he really needs to be. Now, I'm going to interrupt myself right now to bring up the elephant in the room, that is Final Fight Streetwise. Now, while there's a laundry list of things wrong and inexplicable about the game, one of the things they got right is their handling of Hagar. He couldn't have been the mayor forever, and in Streetwise, he's older and a bit sad to see that despite all the great things he did in the past, it didn't really change anything.
It must have made him sick to see what a shithole this place has become.
Metro City is still a rundown cesspool full of broken dreams and desperate measures, and it seems like nothing will truly alter that. Through it all, however, Hagar still maintains this somewhat jovial attitude, and it's one of the things I love about him the most, and I think stays true to the character. Whoa! Hey, good job, Streetwise! Guy's personality is so stoic and strict when viewed through the narrow lens of the Street Fighter games that it might seem like he's got the least going on between all three of the main heroes. And he does.
Wake up. Don't you dare give in to the specter of death.
He's a ninja. He loves to train and then train some more. His complete lack of charisma means infinite charisma. But somehow, despite all these disadvantages, I still like Guy a whole lot. Maybe it's his unique fighting style or his cool shoes. I don't know. One of the few personality wrinkles he does have, and while it may not strictly be canon, is in both Final Fight Revenge and Streetwise, they present the idea that Cody took the rap for a criminal act Guy may or may not have done that was maybe set up by poison. I don't remember the specifics, but Guy carried that guilt with him and blamed himself for Cody's downfall into the prison system.
Cody took the fall so I could walk free. We have not had words since. This man did time, gave up his freedom so that I could maintain mine.
It's kind of interesting, but it's muddled to say the least. Of course, there's lots of other secondary heroes such as Mackie, Carlos, Dean, and Lucia, and while I don't find any of them as interesting as the original three kings, I think they're still great character designs and just a blast to play as. I would love it if at least Mackie, or maybe even Dean, maybe made it into another Capcom game someday. Despite all that, while still being one of the earliest arcade action titles that had multiple playable characters that were more than just being 1P and 2P color swaps, these three heroes are still showing up in Capcom games and media today, 28 years after their inception, and that is quite a feat. With all that being said, however, heroes can only be as good as their villains.
I'll never let anything bad happen to you again.
I love you, Father.
Final Fight is one of the few beat-em-up franchises I can think of where amongst the waves of punching bags thrown at you, there are foes so memorable and so formidable that they become popular in their own right. Hugo, Sodom, Rolento, Poison, cannon fodder. They have such sharp designs, teaming with so much personality that they fit right into any given Street Fighter tournament. The Andores are the weird family of identical bruisers that Hugo is derived from and appear in pretty much every Final Fight title ever released. Rolento is the sneaky grenade-throwing boss in the first 2 games.
What is this civilian doing here?
And Sodom, or Katana if you're feeling nasty, is not a Japanese warrior, but rather a goofy weeaboo that you fight in a wrestling ring.
You win!
Finally, we have the crown jewel of them all, Poison. Now, what can be said that hasn't already been said? People can argue all they want, but at the end of the day, Poison is one of the most fun and sexy character designs in video games.
Quit drooling, you creep!
These are some of the chief members of the Mad Gear, the gang led by that wheelchair-riding, crossbow-firing, freewheeling, and double-dealing Belger, who hatched a plan that would hopefully put Mayor Hagar in line and in the Mad Gear's pocket. However, what they didn't count on was Hagar going nuts, wrapping a belt around his chest, and body slam his way through the city all the way up to Belger's penthouse. Now, despite their overwhelming advantage in terms of numbers, Mad Gear was not prepared for this giant, stupid counterattack, and Belger succumbed to an uppercut from Cody through a glass window. Yep, that's Cody doing what he does best, murdering defenseless, wheelchair-bound elderly men. Now after this is where things get murky, as the story for Final Fight 2 reveals that even though their leader and most of the lieutenants were killed/knocked out, Mad Gear have suddenly expanded their operations across the entire planet. Led by a mysterious new head honcho by the name of Retu, the Mad Gear's new plan is to kidnap Guy's fiancée Rina and her grandfather. Thus, it's now up to Hagar, Rina's sister Maki, and some homeless guy named Carlos Miyamoto to save Guy's fiancé. Wait, no, what the hell is that? Where the fuck is Guy? How does that make any? That's like Wooly calling me one day and saying,
Mayor Matt, I need your help.
What's wrong?
The Mad Gears have kidnapped James Small's girlfriend. And her uncle.
Heck?
Yeah, we gotta save her.
Where's James?
I don't know. He's not coming, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll go save them.
The Mad Gears would finally fade away by the end of Final Fight 2, with the Skullcross gang taking up the mantle as the de facto group to fear in Metro City. However, none of their members would ever get the notoriety of their Mad Gear predecessors. It just goes to show how appealing even the enemies are in Final Fight. Alongside the heroes of the game, they've also branched out into merch, other game appearances, and media. The Mad Gears rule! Arcade games lived and died by how they could attract the average consumer, either by gimmicky cabinets, how loud they were, or graphics that could instantly wow passers-by. Utilizing Capcom's cutting-edge CPS board, Final Fight sprites were massive, detailed, and super colorful. Even more impressive, a lot of them could be pushed on screen at once. Maybe too many. Its graphical look was definitely one of the things that burned themselves into my retinas as a child, baby. This wasn't just relegated to the sprites, however, as all the stage art is just as masterfully rendered as the heroes and baddies you see on screen. There's tiny little details you'll start to notice once you've played the game a few times. Final Fight starts during the day in the slums, and as you move through Metro City, you'll see the progress of time as it goes from dusk, night, and then dawn. Eddie E spits out his gun right before his boss fight, which is an actual item you can pick up, if you want. You can see the Statue of Liberty in the background when you tear through the Bay stage, which, if you think about it, actually means quite a lot. Now, New York is its own city in the Street Fighter universe, but Metro City's view of the Statue of Liberty implies that it actually might be situated where New Jersey is? So, are Metro City and New Jersey one and the same? Well, since they look identical, One has to assume yes. Cody's skill for knives was subtly hinted at by him being the only one who can stab multiple times without throwing the blade. The super attack after images Capcom has used for multiple fighting games came from Rolento, who moves so fast he leaves the ghostly purple trails in his wake. The famous burning body sprite from Street Fighter II also premiered in Final Fight. The game just has tons of love poured into just about every screen. Whenever I play each one of the main games in the series, I find some new detail or gameplay wrinkle I wasn't aware of. Of course, there's the well-known cameos by Guile and Chun-Li in Final Fight 2, but Final Fight 3 features multiple routes and even mission objectives that let you skip bosses or fight entirely new ones, and even get different cutscenes. There's tons of hidden loot throughout the series that you can find obscured by foreground objects, and just so many little connections between Metro City, Street Fighter, and the Capcom Wrestling Association. It's just staggering. I would of course be remiss not to mention the little nods, send-ups, and in-jokes that Streetwise peppers throughout its campaign as well. I've already mentioned that while gameplay, tone, and production values are wonky as fuck in that, the character motivations and love of the source material do shine through, even though Capcom's senior producers forced the game to go through its unnecessary GTA transmogrification, plus Cammy. While I've spent a good while mostly sticking with the 3 main entries in the series, Final Fight has the distinction of being one of the very few beat-em-ups that were popular enough to warrant spin-offs and other oddities. Mighty Final Fight is a late-life NES release in line with Wanpaku Graffiti and Kid Dracula, that it kidifies the source material and makes something slightly more off-kilter. Mighty now more closely resembles River City Ransom in its sprites, now features XP that unlocks different moves as you play. It also has far more story sequences featuring silly interactive dialogue. Instead of Belger blackmailing Hagar into subservience, he has now kidnapped Jessica to marry her to keep her beautiful radiance all to himself. It's a fun little game that features all 3 heroes, but sadly does not allow for 2-player co-op. Interestingly enough, this game does allow you to bat around female or female-like enemies, something that wouldn't be seen in a Final Fight game on Nintendo systems in North America until Final Fight 3. Also, Belgor is now a cyborg. Shut up.
Don't worry about that.
Now, look, Final Fight Revenge is a bad fighting game, but fuck you, it's awesome. Silly and broken in so many fundamental ways, it has this certain old world charm that's just unmistakable and unique. Clearly, the development team had no idea how to make a balanced and competitive fighting game, but damn it if they didn't wind up making an entertaining one all the same. The basic premise is that Mad Gear is regrouped and are getting their second wind, and Belger has somehow been resurrected as a zombie. So it's up to the trio of Hagar, Cody, and Guy to put them down once and for all. And while it's disappointing some of the later heroes like Carlos or Lucia, they're not selectable. But it does feature some hilarious endings and what-if scenarios. It's a stupidly expensive game to own and a bitch to emulate properly. But is it worth it? I don't know. It's safe to say that the arcade to home conversion of Final Fight 1 was not all that it should have been with the scores of missing content, but Capcom did go to great lengths to rectify this with Final Fight 1 on the GBA. An updated port with new features like unlockable characters, attacking and difficulty options, and amazing box art that's immediately canceled out by the awful looking portrait art that accompanies the dialogue sections against end bosses. These cutscenes do help flesh out some of the characters a bit more, and when you play as Cody's Alpha Sprite, his narrative presents the idea that older jailbird Cody gets transported to the past to relive his original adventures through some type of vision quest or a memory. It's a really cool addition that begs for a replay. However, nothing compares to the heartbreaking fact that there was a lost/canceled/Capcom is stupid version of Final Fight Streetwise called Final Fight 7 Sons. I've mentioned this Golden Goose before. It was a cel-shaded 2.5D beat 'em up that featured brand new characters and had a really expansive fighting system. Capcom USA execs vetoed this concept and mandated that it had to be thugged up to appeal to the GTA crowd, much like their other Japanese-made product, Fist Down Beats of Vengeance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
My loins have long burned to actually get to play this version of Streetwise. It just appears so much more in line with what the original games, with the bright primary colors sticking to its arcade gameplay beat 'em up roots and having an amazing visual style. Just looking at this footage is making me want to kill myself. So let's just stop looking at it now. Yes, that's good. That's better. So, wow. For what started off as a basic beat-em-up series, there's a lot to love packed into the filthy alleyways of Metro City. While there hasn't been a brand new release of a Final Fight game since Streetwise, the Double Impact collection is excellent and probably the best version of the original you can easily get your hands on, as it has GGPO netcode for online play and tons of unlockables. You can find pretty much all the mainline Final Fight games available on the Virtual Console on the Wii, Wii U, or the 3DS, and they all hold up really well, especially Final Fight 3. Capcom has not forgotten about the heroes and villains in Metro City, however, as merchandise, comics, and inclusions in other games happen fairly frequently, and you know what, they never fail to make me smile. What's most telling about Capcom's awareness of the franchise is that almost every single cast member of Final Fight, along with a few from the sequels, have had redesigns on the Street Fighter V blog. So it's certainly possible we might see one of them pop up there in the future, or maybe even in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. So I really hope you enjoyed this video of me splooging all over Final Fight. Thanks so much to Two Snacks, Austin, and Dipod for the help with the animation and the editing. You can clearly see it's a franchise that I love dearly to this day, and deep in my heart I know that the fight will never truly be final. Nah, wait, that's way too cheesy. Okay, how about instead of that we just cut to...
If you know what's good for you and for your girlfriend, you'll do exactly what I tell you, Cody!
Cody, now!
You hurt my